What's up? Oh, we're back. It's Friday. Feels good to be back on Twitch. Tube. Working some more on these totally not Space Wolves. Space Wolves in Ultramarines colors. Last time we had this guy here. Kind of started work on. And blue armor with the airbrush. We also did the red cape with the airbrush. Showed you guys how to use decal solutions to make putting decals on models a lot easier, and so we used some decals on his cape to kind of create some layered detail with this like hazard striping embroidery and this eagle thing on his cape, looking really cool. And since then I've done some work on my own time, just trying to stay busy. So you can see that I painted in the wolf pelts as well as shoulder pad detail, the golds, his face and beard. So we still got some work to do. I've got to work on his cybernetic hand, and a couple of other small details need to get blocked in, and we'll be ready to do some washes on there and get into some final detail work. Pretty good. I think probably going to end up finishing this guy today. JP Great coming in with a sub. Thanks, dude. Appreciate that. I think we're going to get this guy finished today. So what I want to do right now is I've got this base. Just pulled this base out of the base drawer. I think it's maybe Marvel game or something from. But it's a cool little base. It's pretty flat. This guy stands pretty flat, and he's going to take up a whole lot of room. So I don't want to use a base that's too terribly detailed. But the ground texture right here leaves something to be desired. So I've got some basing texture, and we're just going to put some of that on there so that while I continue to paint on this guy, that can be off to the side drying. So then I can just go right into painting the base and get this guy finished up. Oh, Kenny coming in with a big old raid. What's up, dude? Thanks for that raid. Basing texture. So let's do that real quick. There he is. What's up, dude? Dead Nerve checking in. So rough texture here. Just want to bring gently pile that onto this area, just so that like this detail right here has got some actual round texture to it. Kind of creep this up onto these metal duckboarding floorboard looking things. Just pick a spot. Say right. Try to get some texture in there. I mean, this is basically just paint. It mostly what mixing texture is. It's just like really thick paint with the grit added to it. And so I want to make sure that that grit stuff piled up on here rather than just the paint medium. Down. Probably really hard to see. I don't know why this is white. Usually basing texture is like same color, but this is the more like diorama type stuff. So you can see that they're showing like what it's gonna look like after it's painted. For some reason it's just white. Stuff is $5 for a tub that'll last me forever. Okay, so now we can just take that base and we'll set it off to the side. On the fan. That can just be drying the whole time they're gonna be working. So I left off. I was working on the axe. So I think as part of that, and also working with cybernetic arm, I need to come in with some steel color, and that'll also work so I can do the armored joints. Really, there's like this tiny little spot right here and his elbow joint right there. That's like really the only place you can see any joints in the armor. Dark steel. Steel. If I get it's cached in it. We can always make our own. It's no big deal. Looks like that is the key. Alright, no big deal. Let's do that. Thing about acrylic paints is they mix gray. We'll need a gray, we'll need a silver, and then maybe let's see now. Push gray to get that nice like steel tone. There we go. Got it. So metallic, a gray, and dark blue stuff. So darker colors tend to overpower lighter tones whenever you're mixing them, so just keep that in mind. Just treat this silver as a lighter tone. So I want the majority of this to be our silver. It's like a drop of dark gray, a little drop of this dark blue gray, mix that up. See how like strong that blue-gray is immediately when we start like really mixing the colors together. That's why you don't want too much, or else you just get like a blue metal. Which you might want, but you know, if we're just going for like steel color, you don't want too much blue. Yeah. Then from here, I can add more silver into the mixture. It'd be a lighter gray tone. Brighten that up. Don't think I want to keep it this color. Not going to be enough contrast. Is blue, so we'll probably end up highlighting this up to a more like kind of shiny, silvery stainless steel kind of looking color. Careful. Go around these areas that I've already painted. Always good to have that knowledge, have that tool in your toolbox. Like when you just don't have paint color that you have in your head, never be afraid to mix your paints, like make a custom color. You know, sometimes it seems scary because like you've got your color scheme recipe and you're like, well, I want to be able to go back like months from now or a year from now, however long, and, you know, have all my dudes color match. And as long as you're just consistent, then they will be fine. Keeping a little notebook handy, a nice little hobby hack. You guys saw me do that when we were working on the Votan stuff, because I had to kind of figure out my color scheme from scratch, like work through it. I'm like, well, you know, I'm doing this now, but 6 months from now, when I have to paint more Votan, am I going to remember this? So I just put exactly what we did in the notebook. So if I forget, like, oh, how did I get that orange? You know, like, I can just open that little notebook up and right in there. There. That looks pretty good. I could have left this little armor plate blue like his armor, but I kind of like the idea of having the whole arm just chromed out. And then I'm going to just very carefully got these little power weapon nodules. Very gently use the side of my brush. Scrape those out. Same thing for this inlay. Because a lot of times you'll see an axe power weapon done where like the body is steel, metal, then all this inlay stuff and everything is like bronzed out or gold. But I kind of like the idea of flipping that around for this. So like a more ornate weapon that's been maybe like electroplated or something. I'm not going to have a whole lot of contrast with these two metallics right this second, but once we get a wash on this, it'll look really cool. And we can also highlight it. No big deal. All right, that looks pretty good. Pretty good. Anytime I'm working with metallics, I like to constantly like kind of swish my brush around in some water to get that stuff out of there, because it tends to kind of gum up a little bit as it dries, and so I don't want any of that like semi-dry paint in my brush. Just something weird about metallic paints. And also just make sure that your brush always has a nice tip on it, stays nice and supple. Probably turn my fan off. That would help too, because like the fan blowing on the desk area is definitely going to make the paint dry a little bit faster. I think we'll be okay. Being under the desk lights does tend to heat up pretty quickly, so I like to have that done while I'm working. And then it's also nice to just be able to set something off to the side and have it dry. Put a little baby brush here for this one. It's tiny, tiny little. Carefully get in here. Really get those little details. Drape it into the side of his armor. You can see I've already drawn in some of the paint chipping. And this guy, I'm going back to a slightly different style of weathering where rather than use like a sponge technique, I've actually gone in and hand drawn all of the like scripts and chips on his armor. So there's like overall less of it, and it's a more like artistic kind of cartoonish look rather than a more realistic look for the paint chipping. Overall it's going to be cleaner, but it takes a long time. So, you know, I think that style fits a little bit better with the more like hyper airbrushing type stuff that we like to do on the channel. So when I do character models and stuff that's more like, you know, a hero standing out, I'll go more into the drawing side of it rather than the more realistic and random sponge chipping, which is faster. So that's why you'll see me do that on like line troops where I have to do like 10, 20 in a row. Or if we're doing something like our dreadnoughts and stuff, well, those are vehicles, and I kind of want more of that like armor modeling tank nerd type of stuff on there, where I'll use the sponge chipping and a little bit of drawing with the weathering. Guys, still the spots in this dude, the primer wasn't wanting to stick to. Just noticed that. Hmm. capture Wyatt. So with that, let's get like a individual little highlight going for some of these. Some of our silver kind of by itself. Snag a little bit of like selective shine lines on this guy. What I'm doing is getting new paint in the brush and then kind of doing like a semi dry brush method. I find that this is like one of the easier ways to highlight metallics, where you're almost like buffing the surface and shining it up a little bit. You can see, like, as I'm drawing, like I'm leaving very barely any, so like a semi kind of dry brush method where rubbing the side of my paintbrush on these surfaces to transfer a little bit of that paint. Gonna shine those areas up, leave us with a softer transition. That paint is going to dry out in your brush, so you got to constantly rinse it out, get new paint in there. And then we'll have to come back after the wash, do another pass with the silver. Good enough for right now. Add that up a little bit. Oh, 40k Johnny Silverhand. Okay, so what else do I gotta do? Probably gonna use a little bit of this. Let's go back to our base. Gray pieces. I'm gonna pick some of it out. A little bit of metal. Help those pop a little bit more. Yep. That's the semi clickbaity title. Okay, so from there, looks like the one thing that is like I scratched some paint or something. Off that spot right there. Looks like the only thing unpainted is this little string. Its claws, or let's just get a clean black there. Yeah, I found some supposedly copyright free kind of jazzy music. I've been really digging that for the streams. Kind of up tempo, but without being like EDM. EDM stuff was getting on my nerves. Alright. Yeah, I did that. I must have like scratched it with something. Just get out our mahogany brown real quick. That's actually a segue. So let's see. Yeah. What's two beasts? Thanks for that follow. So this model is not a 3D print. This is a 20. I think I got this model in 20. It's from a guy over in the UK that used to do like hand sculpted resin casts type models. Trying to remember his name. Yeah, I think it was Calico Miniatures, Captain Calico, something like that. I don't think he does it anymore because I remember like having a conversation with him when I got this and some other models that he was gonna like kind of get out of like having a storefront for his stuff, like a web page. And this guy has just kind of been like kicking around in a drawer for all these years. And I keep seeing him, right? Because I'll like do cleanouts of my like organizer drawers, and oh man, I should paint this guy. Oh man, I should paint this guy. And so I got this inclination to do a Space Wolves build. You know, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna paint this guy. And the reason I initially liked this dude's stuff is because he did all of his Terminators in like a more true scale size. So they're all like huge. And so this dude still kind of towers over even the brand new Terminator models. But he's going to be like a chapter master level character dude. So it kind of works out. He just is as he is. The only thing that I added to the model is his axe. Because he came with one, but I don't know what happened to it. Because it's just been so many years that he's just been like chilling in a drawer. Maybe it got broken or lost or whatever, I don't know. Just found that axe head, the bit, bits box. Decided to put that on there. I mean, like, I think Logan Grimnar has a big ol' like two-handed battle axe looking thing. Um, but this dude's got like his broadsword on the belt, that kind of thing. So I was like, you know what? I'll just let him like kind of dual wielding. Fine. Let that paint kind of dry and mute out. See how that looks after it's set. Sometimes paint can look one way when it's wet and look a different way when it's dry. So if you're ever doing any like wet blending type stuff, kind of want to just let it settle. And then I'll be doing a oil wash over the model, which is going to help those colors kind of blend as well. Then there's a little bit of a, I don't know if you can see this in here, kind of like a little casting error. So I'm just going to hide that. A little creative little black line. Kind of a false shadow in there. Barely even tell that it was there in the first place. Give our guy 1 silver. I think we're good. Right. Let the paint on his scabbard dry really quick. Second, and then we're gonna hit him with a quick varnish, just to kind of uniform everything, protect all that paint that we've laid down since the last time. And by doing like a satiny varnish, glossy varnish, we can lower the surface tension of the model slightly. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And then it'll help us when we put on our oil washes, keep everything kind of high and tight, easier to blend out. Yeah, I mean, like before 3D printing really, came to people's homes, um, the way of things was, you had guys that would like sculpt stuff and cast it and sell it as like garage kits on a web page. Like there was so much of that in 40K, like whole companies devoted to that. And the instant that you just get a 3D printer that could print in resin in the resolution that you want for these like crispy tabletop models, then that just kind of became the way. And there's still companies out there that make resin casts. Artel W is one. They make really, really dope models. This guy right here is a resin cast from Artel. Kind of hard to see primer. That dreadnought that I had a second ago, that's from Artel. But all of their masters, like whenever they need to make the molds for stuff, they 3D print it now. I mean, prototyping. Like basically every company in the industry uses a 3D printer for doing rapid prototypes. Like kind of an open secret is a lot of times when you see like a model unveiled for the first time from Games Workshop, that is a 3D printed prototype that they had studio painted months in advance. So they're like, oh, look at this cool new stuff. And if you like zoom into the picture, you can like, oh, those are print lines. Oh, that's a 3D print. I'm actually banned from Games Workshop's channel on Twitch because during a preview, one of their Warhammer Day fucking previews, whatever they call them, you could. It was when they unveiled the new sniper assassin. What's his name? What's his name? I can't. The Imperial assassin with a sniper rifle. I forget his name, but they showed him off as like the new one for if you subscribe to Warhammer Plus. And in some of the close-up images on the stream, you could see the print lines, and I was like, "Oh, that's a sick 3D print, dude." And they fucking banned me for that. I was like, "Bro, everyone knows that you guys 3D print prototypes. Why is this a problem?" Yeah, back in the day, like that was where you got like hot custom models, was dudes that would like custom sculpt stuff. Like, I think he still does it. I don't know if he still has a web store or not. I haven't looked in a minute. But there was a guy. His store was called Cibor Miniatures, SCIBOR. Um, his stuff was like everywhere, dude. Oh yeah, don't like it. Oh. Hey, maybe the Space Wolves, they just figured out that like the Ultramarines are better than everybody else, and they're cooler than everybody else, and they were like, we want that, and then they just joined up, got sick blue armor, and like yeah, dude, you know, get a Primarch again because ours like fucked off and never came back. Like, this is tight. All right, varnish. Those who haven't seen it before, I use Lucky Varnish by MIG. That's great. They make it in bigger bottles too. The only way I could get satin varnish on short order was I had to buy like 3 little bottles, but they also make it in bigger. Into Recruit Edition. What is that? Like the video game? Like they have like a special edition of the video game they only sell in stores? Or is it like a tabletop thing promotional they're doing? Airbrush this ombre up. As soon as I start seeing it kind of glisten with wetness on, it's probably good enough. Then I think I'm actually going to do something I haven't done in a while, which is I'm going to hit it with a little gloss varnish on top of that. Air from the airbrush. Put my hand around it so the air swirls. Let that varnish dry out a little bit faster. I run out of water? I'm gonna slap a really quick light coat of gloss varnish bottle and then go grab me a water. Look in the Discord. Okay. Wait a second. Longboard Discord, assuming. Just gonna protect that paint. Seal it all up. And the gloss varnish is much smoother and shinier, so it's gonna lower surface tension model ever so slightly. You guys didn't know this. At a microscopic level, paint is actually like quite porous and rough. So what a varnish does, on top of just like protecting that paint from oil in your skin and like UV light and scratches and stuff, it fills in all the negative. So if you imagine like a coat of paint on your model being like a really bumpy road, lots of gravel, the varnish kind of sits on top of that and fills all that negative space and creates like a smooth surface. And the type of varnish you use is going to change how light hits it, bounces off of it, and goes into your eyes. So if you use a matte varnish, that matte varnish is going to sit and maintain some of that like porous bumpiness, for lack of a better term. And so it's going to absorb light. So if you picture like little like spikes, like a field of tiny little spikes, that's your coat of paint. And when you have a matte varnish on top of that, it's going to dry and kind of maintain that porosity. So when light comes in, hits it, and it bounces all around before it comes back out, and that creates like a matte finish. That's why if you want your models to look really, really good when you photograph them, you want to finish them in like an ultra matte, because the lights that you use are going to not bounce back off of the model into your camera with a shine, with a reflectivity. Whereas satin and gloss varnish, like satin's kind of a half and half, and gloss is very, very shiny. So you can see that as I move him around, he's shining, light is bouncing off of it. And it's not perfect. You're not creating like a mirror sheen like you would with a car, because when you clear coat a car, that varnish clear coat they use is much thicker, and they do many, many layers of it. So that's where you're truly filling in all of those negative spaces in your coat of paint. But on this, it's just going to lower that surface tension just a teensy bit, like a little tiny bit. And that's going to help when we put a wash on, where it won't want to settle on flat surfaces as much. You won't want to like stain and all that kind of stuff. That's why we do it. All right, give me like 2 minutes. I'm just gonna go grab a thing of water. Trying to make a mental note of paying better attention to the YouTube chat since we're kind of new to multi-streaming. Oh yeah, dude. I think I'm actually gonna do some Gunpla on the channel later in the year when we kind of slow down for the tournament cycle during December. I've got some stuff queued up that I want to paint on stream, and I've got some really cool Gunpla that I've been wanting to get to. And a friend of mine just got back from Japan, and he got me a model they only sell at the Gundam bases, I guess is what they call them, the Gundam base. Really cool Zaku model that they only sell there, and so I'm actually really excited about that. We've got some alternate games that I want to paint up on the channel. So Halo Flashpoint is coming out next month. I'm very excited for that. So definitely going to paint up some of that. There's a game. Man, I'm actually drawing a blank. There's a mech game from Death Ray Designs. Death Ray. What is this game called? Steel Rift. That's what it's called. They've got some really cool models for their mech game, which I have some. Picked them up at Adepticon. So I want to paint those, some other stuff like that. Painting Gunpla stuff for many years. That we need my that I use for oil washing. Cool. Solvent. It's okay. Up. Have a very thin, dirty brown wash. And I'm just gonna do like an all over wash with this. Once I'm gonna get this spread out, I can come back with some pure black in certain areas. This is good for just like an all very light one and done. And for like the metals and some of our deeper panels, they can come back and darken those up. need to flow for a little bit. What I've done with this all over wash that's pre-thinned is kind of lube up the surface. You'll see like some of those it's gonna drift out. It's all happy. But for some of this, probably have to come back with a slightly different wash technique. This is great for thing. Flowing down areas. I'm back with my brush cleaned out. Yep. Solvent. Just that away, clean it up. Gently push all that out. working this till it starts to dry out. Exactly where. All right, that's looking pretty good. That set off to the side here for a second. Conquest. I think I've heard of that game. Air from the airbrush. Blending out, cleaning up here. Go to this AK panel liner. And it functions a little bit differently than the stuff by Mr. Weathering Colors. So this is gonna sit little panel lines and recesses. This stuff is a little bit more stainy. Wants to stain a little bit more. So I like to come back with this for really tiny little details and metallics. Actual panel lines around this trim stuff. Ding. Very gently. With little white spirits. Being good. Okay. Yeah, I have heard of that game. Now we're just going to very gently pass some air over the bottle. Hope it dry out a little faster. Good. Give that a second. I want to make sure that even though all the areas I can see are dry, I want to give anything that I can't see just a little bit, just to make sure it's dried up. Then what we're gonna do is just like seal all that in with the coat of varnish, and we can get right back to paint. And then anytime I'm done using varnish, I always run a good amount of cleaner through the airbrush, because when that stuff dries, it can be really nasty. Never want to have any varnish dry up in the airbrush. Well, let's get back to working on highlights. A little bit of cleanup, a little bit of highlighting. Just like highlighting up how I can. Come back with brush with similar mixture of our bronze and copper. Buff up these smooth areas on our clothes. Gonna bring their shine back. It's gonna clean up some of the residue left behind oil wash. It's a natural there. You know, I'll out that semi-dry paint. Yeah, details like this where we have a lot of this carved in detail. I want to be able to just gently skip the brush over, leave behind some of that shiny metal. I don't want to completely repaint it or risk like painting inside of those little carved rune words. bolt. A little bit more. Ones. Very, very tight. Oh, I totally forgot his little crotch rune here. There we go. Much better. All right, and we can do the same thing with silver medals. Cool. I think from here we can work a little bit of base action. Fills on his face just a little bit. Good. Off-white gray for his beard. Kind of the same thing. I'm just gonna use this little detail brush, almost like a little dry brush. Up. Good there. A little bit of white. Really been liking this heavy titanium white from Pro Acryl. They have the bold titanium, and this is the heavy titanium, is the satin version. I've been liking that. Like how it behaves. Up a little bit. Rub up here on our skull. Just gently transfer some of that semi-wet pigment. Tight. Okay. We need some light umber. Quick little edgy detail right here. Quick little detail right here. Dry or brush it a little bit more, and then I just want to do some irregular little scratchies some of that leather texture back on there. Looking good. What else? So I think at this point I can start going around and messing with the armor again. I get a little turquoise. Turquoise was like the brightest color that we use in the airbrushing. That's been toned down by the oil wash. It's also the color that I used for these like scratchies and edge details. So I just want to come in and kind of retrace those a little bit. But I haven't varnished this guy so many times, so I can very gently wipe away any mess ups. think the last thing to do is the blade of his little power axe thingy. I want to do this. Start off with some red oxide. Just gonna base out this section here. Coats. Energy coming in with a wall. What's up, dude? Let that totally dry out before I do a second coat. Might even take 3 where it gets as solid as I want it. Use the airbrush here to help it dry faster. Yeah, dude, we got the shelves put up today. A little dark back there, but that's all right. I'll figure out the for that later. want to angle the model so I know my airflow isn't going to hit anything except for the edge of our axe here. Very gently building up some fluorescent line. I even use my thumb as a shield right here. Press some yellow now. Looks like red, fiery, gluey. Casting. Very, very light coat. Satin varnish. Just to protect all that paint. All cleaned out. Base is still a little tacky. Put that texture paste on there at the start of the stream. But it's like almost dry, but I wouldn't want to put any wet paint on it. I don't want that paint to like, I don't want the primer to like crack as that thing dries, you know. I'll just have to do that on my own time. But our dude is what I'm calling done. Looking really cool. Folds are popping. Armor looks fresh. Cape is super nice. I might hit this guy with another coat of varnish. After I get him attached, I might do like a little bit more matte. Especially for like the cape area. Cape's a little too shiny. But he's looking great. Very happy with how that turned out. So I think next time, kind of depends on like how much work I get done. So I got a squad of these dudes, and I got a squad of Terminators and Dreadnoughts. So we'll be working on something different next time. Maybe I'll save the crazy old Dreadnought for the stream on Tuesday. Let's see. But I do need all of this stuff done by the 8th. Yeah. So I will have to do some work on my own time. But we got plenty of stuff for the stream. I've got a couple of really cool tanks. So we got our Vindicator style tanks. Those primed up today. So we got those. All sorts of fun stuff we can do with this project, but come back on Tuesday. We'll be doing something. Just can't guarantee what, because I do have to do some work on these on my own time. We'll see. But did a solid 2 hours tonight. Went over on time just so we could finish up our dude, and then I'll have to paint his base on my own time, but he'll be done by Tuesday. So when we come back on Tuesday, I'll have him to show off, and then when I get him on his base and fully finished, I'll probably put it up on the social medias. So if you're not already, follow the Instagram page and all that stuff. But let's get out of here. It's time for me to cook some dinner. Let's find somebody to raid. Let's see, Useless Wizard's on. Raided him last time. Anybody else painting? Looks like it's just him. Let's try. Oh, some of these filters are. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Let's raid Unaherd. See what they're up to. I don't think I've ever seen this person on Twitch before, so they're probably newer to the Twitch space. Let's raid them. For you guys over on YouTube, sorry, stream's just gonna end. So if you want more painting content, you gotta come over on Twitch. Check it out. We'll get this raid started up, and see you all on Tuesday.